On today's episode, we're looking at what happens when Cinderella makes it to the big dance. Some of the top mid-major teams in the country are in focus, so let's get to it.
Yeah, ain't no problems, ain't no problems. That won't problem with me, no. Yeah.
Let me talk to the chat. They know I was gone for a minute, had to BRB. Had to grab a couple wins with I DID. They sleeping on the kid, I had to do it BIG. I can never be average, and they want a problem with the boy, they don't want no static. I don't need your cosign running with God. Wanna test that, tell them what's happening. Took control, run the game. Best believe I'm shining dog. Counting in my wins, yeah, I love it when they count me out. Off the leash, of the chain, why I been a dog. Best believe I run the game, you know I'm in control of y'all. It's like magic, believe I want that static. Yeah, it's like magic, believe I want that static. Yeah, it's like magic, believe I want that static. Beat them up, knock them out. They really don't want no static.
We are talking college baseball now. Prospects Live presents its NCAA College Baseball podcast for you, everywhere you can find podcasts, as well as YouTube for your viewing pleasure of me, your host, your friend, Drew Wheeler. Happy to be with you and happy to be with my friends tonight to talk about some of the country's most talented and most exceptional mid-major teams who might just make a little bit of a postseason splash. With me tonight are three of our familiar guests. Guest is really hardly the word at this point. You guys have pretty much established yourselves as co-hosts at this point, to the point that I almost feel like we should just say, my co-hosts. Let's introduce them, shall we? First of all, we're going to start with the man to my right. It is Mr. Josh Catlett. Josh, how are you, sir? What's been the most interesting thing to happen to you this week?
Man, I went to a UNC Duke football game. That was pretty cool. I'm up here. I always enjoy my time up here in Raleigh. You know, JB left the area, so I had to be the correspondent for the Triangle area, you know.
Absolutely. We have to have somebody there at all times. It is it's in the bylaws of the podcast, and so I'm glad to see that you could pick up the slack for JB. Speaking of Mr. Sebastiano, we will introduce him now. JB Sebastiano. JB, I'm curious, sir, you are in a different place. What's your favorite thing about your setup tonight as opposed to your standard setup for podcasting?
Well, you know, the best thing about this setup is the professional mic, the nice camera, and two screens behind the current computer screen I got here as well. So, you know, we got a nice little setup, multi-screen. You know, I feel really professional tonight compared to the usual.
You're always pretty professional, but this has got to be, it's got to feel good. You're like fully in the studio. You're about to lay down some tracks. Is probably what you feel like.
I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And with me, underneath me on the camera setup here, Mr. Jake Bargery. Jake, I've been looking at your hat since you've come into the call. I'm curious, what is this hat, sir?
The camera might be messing with it. It's a Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs hat. I live about 30 minutes away from their stadium, so I picked one up last time I went to a game.
Team synergy is what we're doing here, Jake. I've got a Phillies hoodie on. You've got on a Lehigh Valley hat. Org synergy. I like that, Jake. Always can count on you to synergize with me in that way. And, guys, what we want to do before we jump into our discussion is we want to ask you, if you're watching this on YouTube, we want to ask you, please subscribe to the channel. Please give us a like. Please drop us a comment down below. We're going to give you plenty of opportunities of things to comment on, so you just wait for your favorite one throughout the episode because we love interacting with you. At any given point, you could hear from one of, if not multiple of, the four of us to whatever you've got to say. We love interacting with you on YouTube. And if you're listening on a podcasting app of choice, please rate it 5 stars, A+, gold, thumbs up, however the rating system on your podcast listening apparatus of choice works. Give us a review because we'd sure love to have it. Guys, we talked a lot about some mid-majors in the last episode. When we talked about the transfer guys, people in the portal who have gone from one school to another, went so far during that exercise, fellas, to choose 3 mid-major exclusive transfers, so to a mid-major school. I thought it would be good on this Thanksgiving week to maybe express our thanks, our gratitude for some of the favorite Cinderellas, as I said just a minute ago. Some of the teams that can pop up and really just take a nation by storm, like we saw the Murray State Racers do last year, like we've seen Coastal Carolina do in the latter half of the 2010s. Josh, in your opinion, sir, what is it about a mid-major that really just screams fun to watch?
Typically, I'd say a fun lineup, probably. Like, there are a lot of good arms you can find at the mid-major level throughout, various places. But I feel like the most fun you're going to find at, like, a smaller ballpark in a whatever mid-major field around the country is a lineup that, like, really mashes. And, like, there's always mid-major culture. Like, there's SEC, ACC is one thing. Like, they always have a fun culture there, too. But there's just something about, like, it's gritty. Like, being at a smaller town in the middle of nowhere. There's just something about mid-major baseball. I don't know. It really gets you going.
It does. Jake, we don't talk about it enough, but man, you're coaching nowadays. You're out there helping with some teams. In your opinion, what is that kind of us against the world mentality? What can that mean to a player and to a team in a general sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it starts from the kind of the top down. The leaders have that mentality of, if we're these smaller schools and got places are already counting us out, we're not ranked on top 25. Most places, I'm sure, do not care about the rankings whatsoever. They're worried about what they're doing. They're worried about taking care of business, in their locker room, on their field, against their, conference. And I think it takes a special team to get that mindset set the right way. But it can carry teams a long way. And I think, like you mentioned, Murray State, I think they had that down to a T last year.
Certainly did. Easy to hit off a tee as well because it's sitting still. JB, I'm going to ask you, man, when in your brain, can you quantify in some methodology for the people at home, what does a successful mid-major program look like to you?
Yeah, for me, going back to my roots in California, especially mid-major baseball is huge out there. Pretty much everybody out there is a mid-major besides, you got USC and UCLA. Everybody else is kind of fighting for the scraps, and you've had a lot of successful teams out there. A lot of them are built around, a lot of dedication, gritty teams. Small ball especially is a big deal. Like Josh was saying, it's fun to see a team that mashes in the mid-major level, but a lot of them truly flourish through small ball. They just produce runs. Not a lot of guys have double-digit homers on these teams, but they always have a lot of great pitchers, good pitching staffs, great defensively, very sound teams. So for me, mid-major teams are usually your most fundamentally sound, and also they just know how to really play the game of baseball.
Love it. So it means that we're seeing a lot of guys who are just sound, talented players, top to bottom. And that's kind of the key to it. Something I thought about, if you at home, you may be wondering, what exactly is a mid-major? I really had intended to define this for you a moment ago. No better time than now, though. It's more of a unofficial thing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, guys, it's just a school that isn't contained to one of the power conferences. So, again, that's going to be your ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, RIP, the Pac-12 as well. But you guys know that. Obviously, if you at home, if you're like, mid-major, we've heard us talking about that here on the show, but what does that mean exactly? It's that essentially. So an NCAA school, D1 school, who is not among that power conference. And like the boys have said, there's tons of talent to cover throughout them. So what we're going to do is we're going to break these down. You guys have each chosen two teams that you want to talk about. So what we're going to do is I'll talk to you one-on-one, and then in between there, if anybody's got anything that you want to throw out there, we'll do it. We'll have a nice conversation about 6 incredible mid-major schools. JB, I'm going to start with you. You were the one closest to smiling, so you get chosen first. We are going to go to your home state of California for your first team, UC Irvine. I'm curious, what is it about UCI that makes you think they could make a postseason impact?
Yeah, so UC Irvine, they're coming off of 2 40-plus win seasons. They were 43-17 a year ago, making it into the regionals. They had 7 players drafted a year ago, including Colin Yeaman and Riley Kelly in the 4th round each. UC Irvine is really one of those teams that they just continually find talent to bring in that's very undervalued. The pitching staff this year is really what's the driving factor with UC Irvine, but they have a nice offense that they've been able to bring in as well in the portal. And I think they're one of those mid-majors that once again should make a run at the regionals and hopefully break through for the first time.
I think that that's a fair thing to say. You obviously talked about the last couple of years. 2 40-win seasons in a row is nothing to sneeze at. That's something that your major power conference teams would, they'd hang their hat on that in a couple of years. So good stuff there for sure. Let's talk about UCI in a different sense. With regards to draft prospects, do you have any noteworthy guys that are draft eligible that catch your eye here?
Yeah, I mean, the main one that stands out is Ricky Ojeda. He made 29 appearances a year ago, including 2 starts, threw in 66 innings, 3.55 ERA with 83 Ks. Undersized lefty, but he's a guy that's got big stuff, good ride on the fastball, got a couple off-speed pitches, especially a big curveball that plays off of it. He's probably the main guy, played for Team USA this summer, made it to Japan as well with them. Off of that, it's a lot of smaller guys. They have Trevor Hansen, who made 16 starts a year ago for them with a 3.30 ERA and 95 1/3 innings pitched. They had a couple transfers who also came in on the hitting side. Alonso Reyes was a guy who came in from a JUCO, played there last year. Had a 980 OPS with only 3 homers and 26 starts, but this year he looks to break out into a bigger role. Definitely a fun name to follow. And also they pulled in Daniel Pulasic, an outfielder from Los Medanos Junior College. He hit 385 with 13 extra base hits in 31 games at the junior college level in California. So he's definitely the main offensive option to watch in the draft.
Yeah, guy's got a stick. Swinging that stick. You got to love that for sure for the old anteaters, eh? So in conference, who are we looking at as like the chief stumbling blocks for the UC Irvine team this year?
Yeah, there's one main one that you'll hear about later. UC Santa Barbara is usually the main team that everybody has to go through in the Big West. Also, reloaded Hawaii and Cal State Fullerton are also 2 teams that you really need to watch out for. Those will probably be the main 3 teams in the conference outside of UC Irvine this year in the Big West.
Big West is always deceptively loaded with some good teams and good talent. JB, you'll have to forgive me, but I'm really curious. Let's be harsh. What's the upside here? Are we talking supers? Are we talking maybe a regional appearance? Maybe conference champions? Maybe something bigger? What are you thinking?
Yeah, with UC Irvine, they've been a team that kind of got snubbed out. It was on the bubble of hosting. I think they're still in a caliber, and they brought back enough talent to where they're a bubble host team. They're probably at the bottom half of 15, 16 seed if they get it. But Irvine, they'll be a number 2 seed most likely somewhere. They've struggled to get out of regionals. Corvallis was one that they lost in 2024. Last year, they also struggled to get out. I think they're a team that they have the upside to make it into a super if they can get out of a regional with a favorite draw. But most likely, they're going to be a solid number 2 finisher in a regional, I think, this season. But they have a super regional upside, I believe.
Hey, I love it. That's good to know. And I like the objectivity there, obviously, from you talking about the California team. Appreciate that. Josh, Jake, any thoughts on UC Irvine, or should we get to another one of these awesome mid-majors? Okay.
I'll say I really do like. I know you mentioned their pitching staff. I know you mentioned Ojeda. And you touched on Hansen briefly. I'm a big fan of him. It's a top 94 fastball, really good curveball, really good changeup. I think he's going to be a pretty underrated weapon for them in their rotation.
Nice.
Yeah,
Jake,
I may as well quickly throw in 2 more names if we're going to hop out. Caden Castle, a freshman for them, threw against UCLA in their scrimmage they had. He was the starter for them and also went 6 up, 6 down with 3 punch outs. And they also threw Peyton Rogers, San Diego State transfer, sophomore. He threw in 56 innings for San Diego State with a 4.15 ERA. He went 2 1-hit innings against UCLA as well. So 2 guys that are big guys to watch out for that are underclass.
Yeah, man, I feel like you just kept naming talent. So these, hey, anteaters, people want to wear that UCI hat for sure. Jake, you jumped in, so we're going to go to you now to talk about one of your favorite mid-majors. We're talking about Southern Miss. And Jake, I'm curious, we're going to flip this here. In your opinion, genuinely, what do you think the upside is for Southern Miss in terms of the postseason?
Yeah, they're a regular in the postseason at this point. Excluding the 2020 season, you have to go back to, 2015 to find a season where they didn't, either win their conference or, make a regional at large or whatever. I think they're going to make the postseason again. I think it's a super well-rounded team, top to bottom. Obviously there's that big 3 in the Sun Belt with them and Coastal and Troy, but I think they can hang with them for sure.
That's awesome, man. So let's talk some more specifically, I guess, about the team. Any noteworthy draft prospects that you've got your eye on, Jake, with Southern Miss particularly?
Yeah, for me, I would say the top draft guys is going to be on the mound. Right-hander Colby Allen is the first name that comes to mind. He was first team all conference reliever last year, but I think he's got a pretty good chance to cut it in their rotation this year. He's, fastballs up to 95, mid 80s slider. Also, lefty Graydon Harris. I think he's going to start for them once again. Fastballs up to 95, good slider, good changeup. I think both of those guys are names to watch.
Hey, love that, man. So you talked about Allen specifically. That's the pitcher that comes to mind. I think I would assume for all of us when we talk about Southern Miss, really, like you said, a noteworthy guy for the draft. Let's talk hitters specifically for just a minute, Jake, before we get back into the pitchers. Any specific hitters that come out as maybe a threat offensively for this team?
So they're returning catcher Tucker Stockman, Matthew Russo, Dre Barrett, Ben Higdon, Joey Urban. That's their big names that they're returning. Higdon, Urban, and Stockman were all top 15 in the Sun Belt last year in batting average. And then Matthew Russo was second in the conference with 18 homers. It's a really well-rounded lineup, top to bottom. If you want to talk about some guys they brought in, it can be they're bringing in Kyle Morrison, third baseman from South Alabama, hit 9 homers, 44 RBIs for them. Also, Caleb Stelly, they're bringing him in from Louisiana. Feel like he's going to play center field for Southern Miss this year. 900 OPS, 11 stolen bases, 8 homers. Just a lot of production in that lineup, and there's really not a weak spot in it.
You got to love hearing that too. Just touching again on the pitchers really quickly. I know you mentioned several. Any other guys that you're looking at as maybe being an impact arm, somebody that the Golden Eagles can really rely on, maybe going late into the season?
Yeah, I'll go back to the rotation. Cross Sibley, lefty, he started for them a lot last year. He's not going to blow you away with velo or anything. It's an upper 80s fastball, topping out low 90s. Slider changeup, but he gave them a ton of innings last year, and I feel like he's definitely going to do the same again.
Jake, when you're thinking in terms of the Sun Belt specifically, what are the major teams who are going to be jumping out as a threat to Southern Miss, in your opinion?
I already said Coastal and Troy, and they're those three are the three that's always at the top. I think a sneakier team. Let's see, what do I got here? I had notes on Louisiana. Could be a sneaky team. I think that can make a run at that conference if the other three doesn't. But it's a well-rounded conference. I think it's a little top heavy at the very top, but throughout there's a lot of good competition.
Yeah, you referenced, Jake, and you've been really thorough about the depth of the lineup. You've talked about the rotation, having guys kind of 2, 3, 4 deep. I'm curious if you had to say it in one sentence, essentially, what would you say really gives you confidence that Southern Miss could be a regional, if not a super regional threat in 2026?
I would just say I think it's just the stability. I think they return a lot of really good players. They didn't go crazy in the portal. They brought in, like I mentioned, a couple bats. They also bring in Thomas Crabtree from Tennessee, threw a few innings there, hard thrower, could be a starter, could be a reliever. But I think for the most part, just that group of returners all being able to mesh together and go on the run again. I think that's what's gonna be good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say if I can. Well, first of all, 2 things to add on to what you were saying. You mentioned Louisiana might be, like, in your opinion, a power again. I'm a big advocate across all sports for teams that used to be good and used to be powers at the smaller level. I love when they're good again. I would love to see Louisiana be a force in the Sun Belt again. More importantly, I just kind of want to emphasize, you talked about Colby Allen, the reliever that's going to jump into a starting role this year. I think if I had to make a short list of like five or so guys in the country that could really break out like in the mound, I really do think Colby Allen's one of those guys for me. Like, he was a mostly sinker slider guy last year, but allegedly he's added like a serviceable changeup, which should be huge for him. And his slider is like a tight slider, but it got a above 50% whiff rate last year, I'm pretty sure. So if he can put together longer outings and he can actually extend himself past whatever his relief role was last year, that was good enough to be all conference, like you said. But if he can extend that into a starter role, like I believe he will, he's going to be a name that jumps up draft boards, and it's going to be a name that pops off to most people, considering that's a team that's going to be right in the mix of things for the second year in a row.
Ooh. Josh, I love that. That's a good point. Jake, dude, you hit it. This is just a deep, steady, thorough team. They're loaded top to bottom. It seems like it brought guys in. They have returning guys that are solid. If you can get, like you said, with Allen, just that conversion, maybe the more stamina built up, it's going to be something special. And, a lot of teams, we have a lot of listeners who love teams from the American South. Southern Miss is the kind of team that comes in and really hurts your feelings when we get to the regional level. So, Jake, I love that shout out. Thank you for that, buddy. All right, Josh, your time has come, my friend. You, I believe, are going to be sticking in the Sun Belt with a team that Jake just alluded to, with Troy. So I'm curious, in a general sense, what gives you the impression that Troy could make a postseason impact, Josh?
I mean, this team, it's truly hard to not fall in love with the lineup when you truly look into them more and more. I mean, the lineup has power and they have bat to ball. It's experience across the board. There are just so many seniors that are going to be on this team and this lineup. I mean, it was a running joke last year that they had almost exclusively lefties in your lineup. You'd be facing 8 lefties if you're facing Troy. They got some righties to mix in there now. Like, they didn't really have to go out into the portal much on the lineup side of things, except for the couple guys on the left side of the dirt. But it's returning names that people know and that produced last year. And I think that group is already gelled well enough that they should be able to make a run and make up for how they think they were snubbed last year, not making it into the postseason.
You said it. I think that's a great transition, Josh, into kind of what they've done the last several years. Obviously, when you say they're bringing back guys that are known names, that are known and proven contributors, what's the last couple of years looks like for the Trojans?
Yeah, last year they were one of the teams that was, when you're watching Selection Monday, you see your name in that first 4 out list. And I mean, I know I've seen Skylar Mead talk a couple times about how much you could imagine that truly stings, but like it really hurts when they were as consistent as they had been the entire year. They were ranked for most of the year, and then they just lost a really crucial series at the end of the year. And they couldn't put together enough sweeps when they needed to, and it ended up catching up to them because they didn't have enough big wins. I know they've been in the Tuscaloosa Regional recently. I don't know if it was 24 or 23, but like they've been competitive for a while, and they're always one of those Sun Belt teams that, like we've mentioned, the other two, when you think about in the 2020s decade, Sun Belt teams, mid-major teams that are always in the middle of it. Troy is always in the thick of it, giving SEC teams trouble in the midweek, always being ranked, always just around. And they're going to build upon that and have, for my money, their best year yet.
Always just around is such a good way to describe Troy, especially last year's Trojans was just always a threat, always around. Man, that's such a good one, Josh. That we're gonna have to trademark that, put a stamp on. Always around Troy. So let's talk about prospects specifically. So we're talking draft guys, the guys that are going to be getting national attention this year. Who do we look at for Troy?
I would say there's not a ton this upcoming year, the 26 class that you're going to touch on, but there's one guy that you're going to see really high on draft boards for 27, and that's third baseman making the transition to catcher, Jimmy Janicki. He's, in my opinion, the only prospect that was worth any kind of like first day grade on this team. He's got plus bat to ball skills, great power too. He's shown he can get the job done behind the plate. I mean, that's going to be the anchor for this team. There are some older guys that don't have stereotypical like prospect builds that you would see a lot of teams take a chance on, but since this team is so old, there's seniors. I'm pretty sure every single person in the dirt, first, short, second, third, whatever, they're all seniors, and it's like you don't really see guys like that have a chance taken on them very often. So that's kind of where you're gonna struggle a little bit there. I think if there's someone that's in the weeds a little bit that you could see have an unexpected chance to get drafted, It's transfer Dylan Alonso coming from a JUCO, Columbia State. He's looking to be one of their weekend guys. I don't know if it's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We don't know yet. Could be the Friday guy, but he's just a big guy, sits mid-90s, has a nice breaking ball. I think if the command continues to improve, and like I've seen only good reports out of him in the fall, if that seems to continue building upon itself, I think he could pop off and pop onto a draft board somewhere in July, more than we expect.
Hey, that you got to love to hear it. Those kind of pop-up stories happen every single season with guys that we may not be expecting, but then, hey, big performance with the team that's, TM always around. That'll stand out. So you've mentioned now specifically one batter, one pitcher. Let's talk specifically about some more of the bats. When you look and think about kind of the top 2, 3, 4 hitters on the team, what names come out to you, Josh?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably 3 names that have been staples of this team for the past couple of years. Blake Cavell at first base. He's a fan favorite. He's built like an old-fashioned slugging first baseman. Like he just fits that mold perfectly, like you would imagine. He's putting up great numbers always. He ran a 1072 OPS last year and took 65 walks. Seems to have added pop this year. He'll be an anchor for sure. Sean Darnell at second base. He's a reliable guy with a nice lefty swing. He's added some juice this offseason, so if he can step up his game a little bit along with these other guys, that'll pan out pretty well too. Steven Meyer, he's an outfielder who's, like I've said for all these other guys, been around. You probably recognize. He had a 954 OPS last year with your favorite stat, a 207 isolated power. He had shoulder surgery this fall, but he should be fully back by the spring, so that shouldn't be really much of an issue. But it's a lot of reliable bats that are coming back that you probably seen in Meade's lineup year over year. Gavin Schrader in the outfield. The guys that, if I do want to touch on the transfers, a guy that I actually drafted in the transfer draft, Aaron Piasecki, coming from Central Michigan, won the Northwoods League batting title, great at stealing bags. We'll see if it translates to the Sun Belt. Josh Pine's probably going to be their starting third baseman, coming from Indiana. Didn't play a lot last year, but he played a lot in 24. Has a good approach to the plate, doesn't strike out a lot. Should be just a reliable guy at the hot corner, plays solid defense. I think it's a lineup that I'll be shocked if it doesn't mesh pretty well, because all the pieces have been there for long enough that they've already meshed, and they've already proved they can mesh well enough. These transfer guys, I don't think are going to skip a beat.
You gotta love that. I mean, when you're talking about a lineup, obviously guys that have worked together, built that chemistry, but then reliable. If they're all reliable and they all have experience, that's 2 words that are very intangible that you can't really coach necessarily, but it builds a winner. And I think that's boding very well for the Trojans. Let's talk pitchers really quickly, Josh. Give me 2 or 3 pitchers as well that stand out from this team.
Yeah, I'll say the one thing about this team, if I am going to poke a hole in why things might not pan out, is it's a pitching staff full of just transfers, except their probable Friday guy, Noah Thigpen. He's coming back from last year. He ran a 3.86 ERA in 44 innings, mostly out of the bullpen, though, so he's having to move into the starter's role, and we'll see if that translates the way they think it's going to. He has a nice, mid-90s fastball, solid changeup, 3 secondaries. I believe it'll translate at least to a good enough, serviceable weekend guy, but, I guess we'll see. The rest of the relevant guys, all transfers. The projected weekend rotation, Tommy Egan, is a guy coming from Illinois, Chicago, UIC. He has the least velo of any guy in this rotation, but he has a nice sweeper, throws strikes. He should be pretty solid for them on whatever day they decide to throw him. All 3 of these guys also, all 3 of their rotation guys on the weekend, probably righties, but most of their bullpen guys seem to be lefties, the impactful ones Ben Stubbs. He's probably be a bullpen guy. He might be a midweek starter. Who knows? Zach Crotchfeld coming from Texas Tech. He actually was at Auburn 2 years ago too, and I saw him a lot this summer in the Northwoods in person. He is a filthy changeup that if he can control it, guys can't touch. Our guys this summer always talked about how it was like a lethal changeup. If nothing else was working, at least he had that going for him. Lucas Littoral coming from Western Kentucky. Hayden Smith coming from Kentucky. I think Blake Dean is a guy coming from Kansas State that could fill into a starter's role if necessary. It's another righty. But I mean, he sits mid-90s, has a great feel for spin on his breaking balls. I think he could very well fill into that last starter's role. There's a lot of guys that it's a matter of, are they gonna? It's in a different way. Pitching units gel in a different way in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that if the pitching staff can get this unit together and put them in the spots where they know they're best, and they can collectively figure out where each of these transfer guys fit in best, since they were all in different roles at their former schools, I think it should pan out pretty well. But if there is going to be a question mark on this team, it would be probably that bullpen and the guys coming from the lower D2 JUCO levels trying to make the step up, and can they, withstand that kind of level of competition and withhold their production.
So let's just say, for argument's sake, Josh, that the pitching does pan out. We see the bullpen take steps forward. These guys that are kind of rising, so to say, to the Sun Belt level, this stiff competition. We've talked about one team already. I know we're going to talk about another one here in a minute. Let's say that these guys do all rise and that all things are firing for the Trojans. What's the genuine upside you project for them postseason wise this year?
See, if we're going to sit here and talk about if the transfers do work out in the Sun Belt, and like if the pitching works out the way that it can, I want to sit here and say Omaha. Like, I really do. But it feels a little long for a mid-major team to sit here and predict
Right.
Omaha. I'm not predicting Omaha. If we're going ceiling, that is the ceiling for sure, because I'm really, really bullish on this lineup. And I know, JB, you said something earlier about how you had them in your top 25 before the year started or whatever, and I didn't. I think I might have changed my mind a little bit on that, because I see the light. I've started to come around. I'd be really shocked if the bats don't really come together in a way that's going to translate in the postseason against high-level arms and regional supers, whatever it may be. It's just a matter of the pitching they've produced at other levels. It's just really a matter of whether they can produce it at a higher level, or for these guys coming from a power conference coming back down, can they get their wits about them? Can they get their feet back under them and actually produce at the level that they once did?
Yeah. JB, Josh kind of threw it to you. Earlier you did have Troy in your top 25 teams, right? I'm curious if you could maybe give one hearty JB stamp of approval to one thing that Josh said. What do you most agree with about throughout his takes on Troy?
Yeah, I think, for me, why I put Troy in my top 25 at the 25 spot was just, the amount of power that stands out on this team as a mid-major, as in the lineup or on the mound. There's a lot of guys hitting upper 90s fastballs. They brought in this transfers, a lot of people have been reporting that. And also with him, the one guy I can really back up is Crotchfelt. I mean, we played Texas Tech at UNC last year to open up, and I know Crotchfelt was one of the main arms that we looked at and kind of contemplated, because it was opening weekend. It was before we really knew who was going to throw. And Crotchfelt's stuff on a pitch plot, it looked incredible before he comes out there. So we expected to see a lot of him. But he's a guy that definitely for Troy could possibly take that leap forward. He hasn't been able to at the other two Power 4 schools he's been at Auburn and Texas Tech. But he's an arm I really like in the lineup, too. Just a lot of power bats there.
Yeah, I will say that's a guy that, like, the shapes, his pitch shapes look great on a chart. If he's just got to get the command down, like I said, if he can, it's a fastball changeup combo that plays off each other so well, and it's a powerful left-handed arm. So, like, it's really imposing on a spreadsheet. But if he can put it together on the field and actually put pitches where they're intended to be instead of just all over the place, who cares what the chart looks like? If it does pan out, then yeah, I agree. I think that could be their key arm coming out of the bullpen. He was at Auburn and at Texas Tech for a reason. He can perform at a high level. Troy is just as high level as those schools these days, it seems like. So I agree.
Really imposing on a spreadsheet. I need you guys to make sure that that's on my tombstone one day. JB, we're going to go to you here, man, for your second team. We were talking just a minute ago about the Big West with UC Irvine. We're sticking to your home state. No favoritism. This is another one of, I think, the consensus top mid majors. If you polled a large pool of college baseball fans, I think this is one of the teams that may come up within the top 5, I would guess. So, JB, let's talk UC Santa Barbara. Tell me, what do you think? What is it about UCSB that jumps off the page at you? You're like, this is a team that could make an impact in the postseason.
Yeah, so Santa Barbara, as usual, their trademark is the pitching for them, especially like UC Irvine's kind of the junior version these days, but Santa Barbara is the one that really started. As you've seen guys like Bieber and McGreevy and Tyler Bremner last year with the second pick, guys that really made a name for themselves that came from Santa Barbara, and there's plenty more that you could go through as well. Last season, they kind of had a disappointing 36-18 season, lost their first game of the Big West tournament, and missed out on the playoffs for the first time in a while. They had 44 wins the year prior, and they're mainly, once again, led by this pitching staff, but the offense has some key additions this year and some key returners that should make them an interesting team.
Well, hey, great transition. Why don't we jump right in there? Let's talk about some of the bats specifically, because I know you said, and you mentioned some of the names. I mean, major league pedigree for the Gauchos right now. Like, they have produced, I mean, if we're assuming Bremner, and I'm going to assume he'll at least be some form of major leaguer, that's 3-4 really talented guys. To kick the trend, let's talk about some bats, though, first. Who are the main dudes that stand out in the lineup, JB?
Yeah, so they return 4 key guys that they played a lot last year. 3 of them had a lot of success. Jonathan Mendez, an infielder, made all 54 starts for them. He hit .314, had 951 OPS with 11 homers. Nate Vargas behind the plate also started all 54 games, hit .306 with a 919 OPS and 10 homers. And the last main one is Xavier Esquer. He transferred from Arizona in 2024, also made all 54 starts, 281 average, 852 OPS, and he had 8 homers. The last guy that had a significant contribution for them was Corey Nunez. Started 38 games, only hit .230 with 638 OPS, but he's another possible guy that could contribute. And moving on into the transfers, which is really where you get into the nitty-gritty with them. They got Nick Hazovsky, if I'm pronouncing that right, infielder from Ball State. He was first-team All-MAC last season and hit .336 with a 953 OPS and 10 homers, and he made all 58 starts for Ball State last season. The other big name they picked up in the portal was Mitch Namey from New Mexico State. He made 55 starts for them, 340 average, 966 OPS, and 7 homers. So those are the main pieces they'll be bringing in. They also added in Nico Libed, a backup catcher from San Diego, and Will Vasur, a backup infielder from Memphis as well.
Sounds like a lot of dudes that can really just swing the stick, get on base with a little bit of pop kind of everywhere up and down the lineup. Everybody you were saying, it's a very comparable stat line there for them from last season. So theoretically, JB, if you see 2 of those 6-7 guys you just listed take, hardy step forwards, and yeah, exactly 6-7 of those dudes, woo, then you're going to see some really special stuff happen with some solid guys, while led by 2 kind of uber contributors in such a sense.
Yeah,
love that. Love that for the Gauchos. Let's talk about the pitching. Obviously, you said, man, it's a storied history of pitching success. Led at the top, of course, by a name we're familiar with, but I'll let you talk about all of the staff at your leisure. So go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously I won't leave us hanging. The main contributor is probably a top 15 pick in the draft next year, Jackson Flora. He was the main guy behind Bremner last year. Everybody knew. Touched triple digits as a sophomore last season, pitched for Team USA in the summer. Big fastball is what he's known for. Also whipped out a nice slider this summer that he showed off. He's an arm. He pitched 75 innings last year, 13 appearances, 11 of those being starts. Threw in 75 innings with a 3.60 ERA with 86 strikeouts. A guy that's got big strikeout potential. Right behind him, another guy with a lot of strikeout stuff is Cole Triba, left-hander who was out of the pen last year with 20 appearances, 31 innings pitched, a 3.48 ERA, and 46 punch-outs in those 31 innings. They also add in 2 guys with 10-plus start experience. Calvin Prosky for them had 14 appearances, 13 starts, 66 2/3 innings with a 3.78 ERA and 71 punch-outs. And also a transfer from Long Beach State that they brought in was Kellen Montgomery from Long Beach State. He made 32 starts in 3 seasons at Long Beach State, 14 last season with a 76 innings pitched and a 4.97 ERA, but the year prior he held an ERA under 3.5. So Montgomery's kind of a bounce back candidate for the Gauchos that they'll definitely be looking into. And to add off of that, I already mentioned his name, so I'll throw it in there. Chase Hoover, a left-hander from TCU, was a transfer in 2024. One of their main lefty-lefty relievers. He had 8 appearances with 15 innings pitched and 20 strikeouts a year ago.
Yeah, I do want to touch on one of the pitchers for UCSB. I know you obviously mentioned the big names, Flora, Prosky, Triba, but it kind of feels like that 3rd spot in the rotation could be up for grabs for them. And the guy that I really like for them is a freshman. He was getting talked about quite a bit in the draft cycle last year. Ended up keeping his commitment to UCSB. It's Josh Janicelli. He's 6'6", as a senior in high school, 185 pounds. Obviously screams projection. He's got a pretty good fastball. He's up to 90, 92, been up to 95. Curveball, big sweeping curveball, pretty good changeup. But I think there's just a ton of development to be had with Janicelli, and I don't see why he couldn't get a shot at UCSB at maybe getting the Sunday spot or even like a long relief role. I see a lot of innings coming his way.
Yeah, totally. Guys, tons of pitching here. I mean, we've talked, I think, I'm not going to do 6-7 again. Multiple arms that the Gauchos can lean on here with talent. And again, like Jake, you said with Janicelli, with projection yet to come. So just a lot of talent there. JB, we talked Big West a minute ago when we talked about Irvine. I'm curious with Santa Barbara. Obviously, it's the same kind of stumbling blocks that could jump into their way out of the Big West, with Hawaii and other teams. Obviously, the other Cali teams are certainly ones they don't want to lose to. The last couple of years for Santa Barbara, obviously, you talked about the development for the pitching and how we've seen these guys get drafted, and they've really had a pipeline in that sense. The last couple of years for UCSB, what's that looked like, and then what does that do to lend to your long-term projection for them?
Yeah, Santa Barbara, they're very consistent every year, and they usually bring in some of the top players in California every year, just like Jake was mentioning a second ago. They usually bring in a lot of top pitching talent, especially. And their school, I think it's just going to be the same old deal with them every year. They're going to be a pitching factory. I think the struggle for Santa Barbara, especially right now, is going to be kind of the brutal warfare between the teams in the Big West, honestly, how it is with teams like Hawaii, and then you also get last year's Big West winner, Cal Poly, in there as well, which I forgot to mention earlier. It's just a battle between all these teams, Irvine, Cal Poly, Fullerton, and many more that are in the conference that, on any given weekend, they can sneak a series from you. So the biggest challenge, I think, for all of them in the Big West is kind of just trying to fight off your opponents and stay in a position where you have a favorable draw, even if you don't win the conference tournament, which is kind of tough. And Irvine's done a good job at that. It's going to be Santa Barbara trying to get back on that same path, I think, this year. But, I think this season they got enough there, and especially the bats, to be a super regional team once again. They can get back to that level. I think they at least make a regional, but it's always tough to see how far they make it and what the draw may be for Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but obviously you detailed it very well, pal. A lot of talent for the Gauchos. A lot of talent in the Big West. We're gonna have some fun this year talking about Big West baseball, I feel like. With the group of sickos here and the broader group of sickos in our draft team. Jake, we'll move on to you from California to, well, maybe not the exact polar opposite, but pretty opposite. We're talking Creighton. Jake, what is it about Creighton that jumps out at you when you think this is a team that could do some damage in a postseason?
Yeah, I love Creighton. Last year they were so they had the best ERA in the Big East by nearly 2 whole runs last year. Was the thing that stuck out the most to me. I know we're talking more pitching here, but I think the rotation has a good chance to carry them. They're returning some good guys. The biggest question for them, I think, could be not necessarily the players, but how the guys kind of rally around their new coach, right? They're losing a legendary coach and Ed Service. All but 2 of his seasons since he took over for Creighton since 2004 were above 500. He's made the postseason, won conferences, won regionals. He's done it all, and I think it's going to be interesting to watch and see how they rally around their new coach.
It's certainly going to be a really interesting storyline to follow for them, because we saw Creighton again in the regional level impress. They had some really solid games last year, and if I'm not mistaken, the Fayetteville regional, if I'm not mistaken, anyhow, looked really impressive. And like you said, with Service leaving, that is going to be such an interesting storyline to follow how that team does without their man at the helm. The last couple of years, obviously, you referenced, Jake, it's been all but 2 years since the early 2000s of 500 or better baseball. Specifically, the last couple of years, though, what are we looking at for the Blue Jays?
Yeah. So I'll go back to we can just talk about last season.
Yeah.
They won all except for one conference series in 2025, including 3 sweeps. They swept Butler, Georgetown, St. John's, I think they swept Villanova too, so that's 4. They won the Big East tournament last year over UConn, who I think is also a really good team this year. But they went to, they had a pretty tough draw in the regional. They had to go to Fayetteville. Lost to Arkansas there. But what are you going to do? But they're like I said with Service, they're coming off of he's a legendary coach. He's always in the postseason, and it's been the same the last few years.
Yeah, certainly. Let's shift from kind of the discussion of kind of their overarching storyline with the coaching change. Let's shift to the players specifically, Jake. Talking again, like you said, we've talked a lot about the pitching. Let's lean into that though. Let's talk about the Blue Jays pitching staff. Who do you like? Who are the noteworthy names here?
I think the biggest one to talk about is Wilson Makers, right-handed pitcher. He was freshman of the year, leading that rotation. Went 67 innings for him, 3.07 ERA. Fastball's up to 94. He's got the classic 4-pitch slider, curveball, changeup. I think he's going to do it once again for them. I think it was a really good thing to keep him there and keep him from transferring as a freshman, winning that award last year. But I think he's going to be the name to watch. And then a little bit more of I wouldn't say underrated, but a guy that I like is Shea Went. He's been a reliever pretty much the last 2 seasons. He's made a few spot starts here and there, but he's never been like a mainstay in their rotation. But he's up to 95, has a cutter, curveball, changeup, throws mostly over the top. I think what's held him back a little bit is his walk rates. He kind of walks a little bit, but it's not like a crazy number. But I think he's got the arm talent to make it in their rotation. If he can find a little bit of consistency, he's gonna make a little bit of noise for them this year.
Definitely. Hey, I've got to love it, man. Creighton, like you said, their pitching has kind of led the way. It's good to know that that's going to be carried over. Makers specifically, good call there with him. Let's shift the conversation, though, to the bats. Looking up and down the lineup, who catches your eye, man?
Yeah, so they're returners. They're not returning a ton. They did a lot of good stuff in the portal, but my favorite of the returners is going to be their catcher, Connor Capice. I think is how you pronounce it, Capice. He hit 350 last year, which was 11th in the Big East. Good defense, good arm behind the plate. He's really consistent, good bat to ball. But like I said, they made a lot of noise in the portal. They brought in Chris. I really am not going to pronounce this last name right. From Holy Cross, Chris Belargian is my best effort.
Oh, Belargian. Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, Belargian. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I do know him. I just don't know how to pronounce his name. 3-year starter for Holy Cross. Last year, he hit 376 for them. Really good. For what it's worth in their conference. It's really good bat to ball. He's gonna get on base for them. He can also play the outfield too. I also like third baseman Rocco Gump. He's coming from Northwestern State. Power speed combo. Double-digit homer potential, had 19 stolen bases last year, plays the hot corner really well. And the last guy, Isaac Washman, he's coming in conference transfer from Xavier. Big power DH there, and I think he's going to put up some big numbers at Creighton as well.
Jake, I don't want to speak for Josh and JB specifically. We're just glad you're giving us good takes. I'm not expecting you to know how to pronounce French names just right off the rip. That's not something we're expecting of you. I think they'd feel safe with me speaking for them there. In terms, again, though, of the Big East, let's talk about the teams that might give Creighton a little bit of trouble in their own backyard. Who do you got in mind there?
There's really 2. Xavier's one that's always kind of around in that conference. They had a good year last year. They do a really good job scheduling. I think that was a big thing that kind of got their got their RPI number boosted, but they also did well in the conference. I think they had the 3rd best conference record. But for me, it's UConn. I think it's going to be their biggest competition. They have a really fun player in Tyler Minnick. I think he's got upside, not just in the conference but in the draft. They're always competitive, both at the plate. And on the mound, I think it's going to be UConn is going to be the one that's competing with Creighton the most.
You referenced Minnick from UConn. We didn't ask, or excuse me, I didn't ask. Were there any draft guys from Creighton for this year's team that really jump out, or are we looking more for the future with these guys?
It's the two guys that I kind of hit on. It's Capice and Went for me. I got to see Connor Capice at Villanova a couple years ago when Creighton made the trip out here. He was a freshman then, and he caught my attention then. So I like the way he moves behind the plate. I like the way he hits. He's really developed into a solid catching prospect. And it's Went on the mound. Shea Went. He was, I think, their closer whenever I saw him when they came here. But like I said, I think he's got the arm talent to make the rotation and clean up a little bit of the control, which isn't as big of an issue as I might be making it sound. But I think he's got a chance this year too.
Awesome. So let's wrap this one up for Creighton. Jake, if you had to say, what's the genuine upside? Are we talking regional, conference champion, maybe a super region? Maybe what are you thinking?
Yeah, we talked about the first year coach thing at the beginning of this, but Mark Kingston, he's not like your average first year head coach. He's been a head coach for Illinois State, USF, South Carolina. He's been in this role before, and he's been on Creighton's staff as kind of the coach in waiting, I think is what they called him for once Service announced his retirement. So I don't think it's completely wrong to say that they couldn't, go on and win the conference this year. I don't know if they're going to, reach the level, just being in the Big East and the competition they play. I don't know if they're going to reach the level of like hosting a regional, but if the pitching staff stays hot and some of these bats that they brought in get hot, I think they could, go as far as regional, super regional run for sure.
Nice. Gotta love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Quick look at the Blue Jays. An interesting team for sure. Like we said, with a lot of storylines to follow. Speaking of interesting teams, Mr. Catlett, how much more interesting could a mid-major get than, I don't know, Omaha? Shall we talk about Coastal Carolina?
We shall. I mean, we've gone way too long on this podcast without talking about the mid-major team that literally was the national runner-up last year and won, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 26 straight games in Omaha. So, I mean, we've gone way too long without talking about them. They are as big of a mid-major program in this country right now as it gets. I think they have to be the premier one at this point. So, yeah, I'm excited. Hit me with it.
So, obviously, we led into it with we don't want to bury the lead. This is a talented team who's made it to the mountaintop. Just haven't quite seen the peakest of peak in a minute, but they have. So, I'm curious, the last couple of years specifically, can you run us through that for Coastal before we start talking players specifically?
Yeah, so, I mean, everyone knows how – I mean, I just kind of hit on how far they made it last year. Lost to LSU in the National Championship Series. This is not the past couple of years, but they did win a national championship in the past decade at this point, which is a hill that mid-major teams do not reach in this sport. It does not happen. But they reached the mountaintop, and since then they've built on it, and they've become, for my money, the premier mid-major program in this country. They made it to at least a regional final in all of the last 4 years, I'm pretty sure. And then last year they just capitalized on it and rode the hot hand, caught lightning in a bottle, capitalized on their great regular season, made it all the way to Omaha and the National Championship Series. So, I mean, it's as good of a pedigree as anywhere you're going to find in this country down in Conway.
Without a doubt. And the pedigree does not stop with the team. Obviously, draft prospects. We saw several drafted over the last couple of years. The coastal pipeline is getting to be pretty well developed in the last several years, but there's still some draft prospects to go in Conway. Tell us about who the next crop are.
Yeah, so there's one big one. There's really not a lot on this team this year, so I think I'm just going to take my time to talk about someone that I don't think we've talked about on this podcast so far.
I think we have.
Cam Fluke. He is my number 5 overall prospect in the college class. He's my number 1 arm in the college class too, maybe overall. He's a tall, lanky 6'6" guy, had a 29% strikeout rate last year and 101 innings pitched. I wrote an article about the best individual pitches in the entire college class, and that article found Coastal Carolina Twitter somehow. Matt Williams and all their accounts were finding me because 2 of the top 4 pitches on that list were Cam Fluke pitches. I mean, his fastball and his curveball are that legit. It's truly, I I think they're both plus pitches, could be beyond that at some point. Like, it's truly insane stuff that he has. He's as good of an ace as there is in this country, honestly. He throws strikes. He threw, I think, 68% strikes last year, has great extension, has great ride on the fastball. It's as good of a Friday guy as you're going to find anywhere, not just the mid-major level, just truly anywhere in this country. It's as good of a Friday guy as you're going to find. So that's the far and away best draft prospect you're going to see this year, next year, and maybe ever from Coastal. Seriously.
That's high praise. And I mean, Fluky is deserving of it, but that is high praise. I have to acknowledge that is a lofty statement. I do think he can live up to it. So obviously, you said that he himself, electric. And like you said, pound for pound across the nation, I don't know that there is a better Friday guy. There may be Friday guys at his level, but there's certainly, I think any power conference team would look at Fluky and say, we'd like him. I wish we had him. Too bad he's in Conway. Let's keep on the pitching staff though, Josh. Maybe give me another name or two that just really jump off the page at you as dudes to watch.
Yeah, so the big part of their team last year that really stood off the page, everybody, was the pitching staff. The bullpen specifically, I'll hit on them in a minute, but just first, their rotation this year, it's going to be Fluky as the Friday guy. Hayden Johnson's going to return as the Saturday guy, more than likely. He's been reliable there for them for a couple years, and I think it's looking like at this point, Ross Norman, transferred from Georgia State, he's the projected Sunday guy. A couple other guys could work into that spot. That's not anything set in stone, but I mean, he's a 6'7" guy with mid to high 90s fastball. If he can dial his command in, he should become a reliable Sunday guy, reliable enough Sunday guy for them. The big thing for them was the bullpen last year, and they're returning pretty much everybody from that bullpen. Dom Carbone, Darren Horn, Ryan Lynch, Jackson Appleman, just to name a few. All older guys besides Appleman. That's a lineup last year that's a bullpen last year that really just mowed down batters at every level. I mean, look, I have to show some respect because they ended our best regular season in program history last year, probably at our home field. So look, I got to show respect to that pitching staff and that bullpen because they came to the Plains last year and shut us down. And not much more you can say beyond that. The proof is in the pudding, and they're all going to come. They're all going to come back this year. Ryan Lynch had something like what was it? It was like a 0.5 or a 0.6 ERA last year out of the bullpen. There's going to be some regression to the mean probably because they were genuinely maybe the best bullpen in all of America last year, but they're going to be reliable again. They're going to produce again. Is it going to be the same level? Who knows? But it's going to be up there, and it's going to be enough to, at the very, very least, carry them through a Sun Belt schedule not with ease, but with confidence, like they should.
Yeah, I like that. With confidence. That's really all you can expect from a Sun Belt conference. We've talked about 3 teams from that conference. Loaded. Good stuff there. Let's flip the script. Talk about some bats. I'm gonna challenge you, Josh. Give me your favorite contact, your favorite bat to ball skill. Give me your favorite power skill. Give me your favorite defense skill on the team.
I'm gonna say, yeah, you did. I'm gonna say Blake Barthol. I think is a guy that I think can put together some power numbers this year. That's gonna end up actually. I think he'll actually expand on what he did last year. I don't have the stats offhand right now.
Yeah,
but I think he'll expand on that and become from everything that I have seen, he's going to become more of a power guy. He already kind of was the top power guy last year, but I think it's going to expand to a different level at that point. Bat to ball. Let's see. Think. I'll say Dean Mijos. My host, I don't know how to fully pronounce his name. He's a center fielder. Last year, he's probably going to be again. Yeah, I mean, he's very rangy in center field. He covers that position very well, but I think he's got also a great bat to ball. He's going to hit for average pretty well. Yeah, I mean, also in terms of, did you ask me about best fielder on the team? I couldn't make this up. Okay, well, I got a guy that I don't know if he is fully going to start in the outfield. He might just be a DH, but there have been way too many guys that I work with this summer on my team in the Northwoods League that have been talked about or hinted at in some way. I've got to hit on one more. Rex Watson. He could mix into the outfield this year. He's a transfer from San Diego. This summer, he made a literal, I kid you not, he made a literal Willie Mays catch in right field, like by definition, like was not looking at anything, just caught the ball over his head in right field. And he's a good enough defender that they can put him out there, make more plays like that, and he's going to be serviceable enough. The outfield in and of itself is going to be really good, better than way more at that level. It's going to be tougher to fill in for certain other spots, filling from guys that they lost, like filling in for Bodine behind the plate. There's going to be a catcher's duel that they don't even fully know who's starting there yet, I don't think. So you might see some issues there, but I think the outfield is covered pretty well on that front.
It's good. I mean, you've said it. I mean, obviously, if there's guys that are challenging you, Josh, to kind of think, okay, is this really the best tool for each of those three categories? It's a team that's got talent kind of in every facet of the game, honestly. And so that's exciting for Coastal fans out there, Conway and beyond. We've talked about the Sun Belt, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Josh. We'll get to the major question people I'm sure are wondering, Coastal fans and not. What's the upside here? Clearly, we know what they've done, but that was another team. Talking 2026 Coastal Carolina, what's the upside realistically?
Yeah, so I told you I was coming at you with another trivia question today.
Yeah.
This one is way easier, I promise. You don't even have to fully know like what the actual like the team that goes with this. I just need a year. I'm asking a question. When was the last time a mid-major team made it to Omaha back-to-back years?
I'm going to go with it's probably I'm going to guess Cal State Fullerton would have been
that
my
was
guess.
my thought was Fullerton, but I can't think of the year.
I think it was in the 2010s, maybe
2012. I'll say 2012, just to jump us off.
As I was doing research on this, trying to figure out this answer because I was just curious, Fullerton did pop up a lot more than I expected. It's not them though. It was Rice in 07 and 08. So
Right.
I say all that to say it is very, very difficult for a mid-major team to make it to Omaha in back-to-back years, especially as far as Coastal did last year, making it to the National Championship Series. This is an easy thing to say. It's a cop-out, statement. If anyone's going to do it, it's probably these guys. But I say all that to say that it's very, very difficult to put those pieces together, especially when so much of it was retained from last year. Like they are losing really impactful guys, don't get me wrong. Jacob Morrison, Riley Eichhoff on the mound, Caden Bodine behind the plate. Like those are really impactful guys. But the majority of that core, besides them, is coming back. And with one of the best coaching staffs in the country, I'm going to say the ceiling is Omaha because how can you not after they did it literally last year? But I asked you that question just to prove a point of how difficult it is. It's difficult for everybody because it's just the way the sport works. But for mid-major specifically, it just seems to be really tough. But hey, if anyone's going to do it, it's probably going to be them.
It's a tricky thing, and I love the trivia and how it plays in because, like you said, man, you needed to just reiterate to us it's difficult. It hasn't happened since 2008. I'm sorry, was that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2008. I'm not even going to ask how old some of you were at that time.
Do you want to know?
No, that's just gonna hurt my head and my soul. So I won't. Guys, we talked 6 mid-major teams in really, really excruciating detail. We have given you at home all kinds of stuff to chew on if you're fans of those teams. But I mentioned it a minute ago. There is talent up and down these conferences. So I'm going to throw out a couple of names, and then we're going to go to you guys for just a one-word answer. You can answer with one of the teams that I'm going to give you, or you can come up with a whole nother team that I didn't mention. That's up to you entirely. Other banger mid-major teams that are worth discussing. If we were going to go 2 hours, if we were going to go an hour and a half, maybe we'd have gotten to your team. Sadly, that's just not in the cards for us tonight. But I'm going to throw them out there anyway. That way you at home know that we're at least aware y'all got game. East Carolina, Cal State Fullerton, we talked about just a minute ago, the squad. San Diego State, Tulane, UConn, Cal Poly, a lot of talented teams. Jake, we'll start with you. Which of those teams is your favorite? Just a one-word answer.
My favorite of the ones you listed is ECU.
Love it. JB, favorite of those?
Yeah, I'd probably go with ECU, but right behind them is probably San Diego State.
Yeah, you mentioned San Diego State earlier. I bet you were sad you didn't talk about another California team. Josh, favorite of those teams?
I'll take one from Jake's part of the country. I'll go UConn.
There you go. So, 9 teams you've heard plugged across the show, mid-major talent alive and well. Lots of good teams. What I think we're going to have you do is comment down below, in your opinion, the best mid-major team that one of our guys here on the panel talked about, and then the best one we didn't get into in full detail. Curious who you like at home, who maybe we should talk about in another edition of this if we talk more mid-majors later on in the off-season. But I do want to throw it to you guys to talk about what you're doing right now and tell people where they can find you in between the episodes of College Baseball Now. Jake, why don't you kick us off, sir?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jake Barge. I mentioned it last episode, but I am still working on the conference previews. The plan right now is to have something for every conference and every team. Just to give a little bit of a preview for that. The first one is going to be the Southern Conference. That's going to be releasing here in a couple weeks. We're going to have, if everything goes to plan, we're going to have some projected all-conference team, projected standings. We're going to have some draft players, some freshmen and transfers in there as well. So it's going to be a lot to dig into. I hope you guys are all excited about it.
Safe to say, Jake, if they enjoyed this episode, that article series is very much in their wheelhouse, huh? I think
I'd say so
for sure. Yeah. JB, where can the folks find you between your appearances on College Baseball Now?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JB_Sebastiano. Hopefully we'll be doing some more stuff soon with some more article series. Josh had one the other day. That was really good. Everybody should go check out. Hopefully we'll have an infielders one out soon this week that I'll be writing. And yeah, that should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, we heard the plug. JB beat you to the punch, but man, it was a great article. I had the privilege of editing and getting that slicked up for you. Didn't require much work at all. A beautiful article with, if I'm not mistaken, 10 outfielders?
10 outfielders.
It's insane stuff. So what are you working on now? Where can they find you between episodes of College Baseball?
First of all, you both flatter me. Stop it. You can follow me on X Twitter at JoshCatlett3. I'm probably going to start trying to do some more content on there pretty soon. Haven't fully decided what that's going to look like. I got time though. I'm going to figure it out. So it'll be more than just like a blind follow for, me reposting stuff. Yeah, we'll see what the draft team comes up with at Prospects Live on the website now. Who knows what content we got coming out. We still got that article series still rolling out, like JB and Drew both mentioned. Some updated rankings coming out pretty soon with some new scouting reports on various guys, college guys coming next, extended list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, should be fun stuff. We don't know exactly what all it entails yet, but it'll be good regardless.
Yeah, gotta get that Yahoo in direction to give some instruction. Anyway, enough about that guy. If you want to follow me between episodes of College Baseball Now, please do so on the Twitter machine, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, at Drew is okay. As these guys said, it's a really good time to maybe look into Prospects Live because our pricing is going up at the end of the year. So if you want to lock in a couple years of our low rates, you can do so. They're not even going up that much, though. I think our lowest price is going to be $7, if I'm not mistaken, for content like this, content on Dynasty Baseball, on Pro Scouting, on teams, on your baseball cards, on your all kinds of stuff. If you like baseball, chances are there's stuff for you at prospectslive.com. And boys, I want to say thank you very much. If you're watching this the week we're releasing it, happy Thanksgiving. We are so thankful for you taking your time to enjoy College Baseball Now. Guys, like a little less than 3 months, some college baseball. And for that, I'm truly thankful. And I'm sure you guys are too.
I'm very thankful. I can't get here close enough. 2.5 months. I was thinking earlier today, or a couple days ago, in relation to other sports timelines, how far the season feels. This is if you're a college football fan, this would be mid-June if you're listening to this, getting ready for college football season, which sounds like sicko stuff, and it is. So it can't get here quick enough.
I know. It's going to be insane. All kinds of great content coming out soon. So stay tuned to prospectslive.com. Thank you so much. Again, if you haven't, give us a rate, give us a comment, give us a review, all that great stuff. And until next time, for Josh, for JB, for Jake, I'm Drew, and we'll see you next time on college baseball now. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.